GSMC Hockey Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We're back with our second segment of the night, talking pre-draft trades and giving just a quick roundup on the moves that happened before the draft. As we're going into this offseason, a lot of things are happening, unfolding right before our eyes. And the one thing that did happen, June 26th, is when we'll go back with these trades, because I think I talked about them up until that point. You have the Chicago Blackhawks acquire, in a trade with the Vancouver Canucks, they acquire Ilya Mikheyev, Sam Lafferty, and a 4th-round pick in the 2027 NHL drafts for a 2nd-round pick in the 2027 draft. So if you're the Chicago Blackhawks, you get a forward and a defenseman, if I'm not mistaken, and a 4th-round pick in the 2027 NHL draft they got a 2nd-round pick and they traded away a 4th-round pick. That's what it was. I thought I was saying that wrong. I did have it backwards. So they got a 2nd-round pick from Vancouver in return for a 4th-round pick. They also, it's a cap dump. This move is a cap dump for Vancouver. They trade away Ilya Mikheyev and Sam Lafferty so that they could clear up space. Why did they clear up space? Well, they have free agents that they wanted to re-sign, and we'll talk about that in the third segment as they do re-sign 2 key pieces, and they have a 3rd one still in the wings. However, I don't think that progress is happening on a deal with that 3rd piece, but we'll get into all that in the 3rd segment of the night. So, for the Blackhawks, adding depth if they want it. For the Canucks, being able to re-sign some pieces. I believe Ilya Mikheyev and Sam Lafferty are both expiring, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, let me make sure that I get that right here. I think that both of them are expiring. So Sam Lafferty is expiring. Ilya Mikheyev has 2 more years left on his deal of $4 million. But both of them count towards their cap right now. So they needed to trade them away before the re-signing phase so that they are able to re-sign their guys, because they would have moved. They still count for their cap penalty up until free agency, if that makes sense. So, I mean, it's a good deal if you are the Vancouver Canucks, and it's a great deal if you're the Chicago Blackhawks. The Blackhawks have $30 million to work with. They don't need to re-sign really anybody if they don't want to. They could just kind of use their cap, let teams use them, get a 2nd-round pick in a few years for it. Why not? It's a good trade for the Chicago Blackhawks, and it is a great trade for the Vancouver Canucks because it freed up some room. So I would give A- for the Blackhawks. I would give a B+ for the Vancouver Canucks. Both teams do well in that trade. I would just give Chicago Blackhawks just a slight edge in it. Next is a strictly a jump up in this year's draft. The San Jose Sharks acquire acquire the Sabres 1st rounder this year, which was number 11, for the number 14th overall pick and a 2nd-round pick in this year's draft. San Jose Sharks move up to number 11, and we'll talk about who they got at number 11 because I think it is a prospect that I loved. He was in my top 10 of my mock draft, if you guys do recall that. A little glimpse of who they did get for that number 11. But we'll talk about that in my live draft reaction, talking about whether that trade was good for them, because it was... I think that they did win this trade with who the Sabres got at 14 was not somebody I really liked in particular. Next trade, we're talking about Andrew Mangiapane to the Washington Capitals for a 2nd-round pick in the 2025 NHL draft. This was a weird move. I'm talking about the Capitals this offseason, and they're doing a lot of head-scratching moves that I don't understand what they're doing. Like, honestly, they have now 6 forwards that are making over $5 million, along with John Carlson that's making $8 million. You get Andrew Mangiapane, who is on contract for 1 more year at 5.8. They're trying to win next season, but do they really think that this is a cup contending team? I feel like they're putting all their chips in the middle to get a 2nd round exit. Like, this is what this team seems like to me. I feel like they are a good enough team to compete in the Metro, and they're a good enough team to get, like, second or third in the Metro. But look, it's Alexander Ovechkin, who is 38 years old. He will be 39 years old when the season starts. Then you have Pierre-Luc Dubois, who is making $8.5 million for the next forever 7 years. Pierre-Luc Dubois making $8.5 million for the next 7 years for 40 points. Is that what we're expecting out of him? I don't think that that's too far off. If not, I think that might be exactly what he puts up. So I don't like that. I don't like the Pierre-Luc Dubois contract, and I don't think that he is particularly a top 6 forward. Then you have a 30-year-old Tom Wilson, who probably is the best piece in this entire team, and when Tom Wilson is the best piece in your entire team, that's not great. Tom Wilson had, I don't know if, there it is. Tom Wilson had 35 points in 74 games played. Minus 19 on a playoff team. Like, that's not great. So that's your top line. That's your left wing, center, right wing right there. Then you have Andrew Mangiapane, who's a winger. TJ Oshie will probably play on the right, and then Dylan Strome will play in the center of that second line. Andrew Mangiapane is the best piece of that line. Then you have a 37, going to be 38 at the end of next season, TJ Oshie. Then you have a Dylan Strome, who has not really produced too much in the NHL. Then you have Alexei Protas, Sonny Milano, Nick Dowd, Michael Scarboza, other pieces like Connor McMichael, Nicholas Kubel-Aubier, and they're $2 million over the cap right now. And then their defensive core is atrocious, in my opinion. John Carlson, which is a 34, going to be 35 at the end of next year. Rasmus Sandin, who's not that great of a defenseman, making 4.6 for the next 5 years. Nick Jensen, who's not that great of a defenseman. Trevor Van Riemsdyk, who can produce but not too fantastic. Then like Ethan Bear. Then for goalies, all you have is Charlie Lindgren on your entire roster. Look, the Capitals are doing such a... it's so weird because it seems like they really feel like their prospect pool is so deep because they won back-to-back Calder trophies, so they think that they don't need to set up for the future because they already have a future right now. But truly, I don't think that this team is competing anywhere near the level that they expect to next season. I think on paper, this Washington Capitals team will just be underperforming. This year, it was the 8th team in the Eastern Conference, barely squeaking into the playoffs. And I think they got worse. Like, the deals that they made, you would expect them to get better, but Pierre-Luc Dubois, I think, makes any team worse. And you gave up Darcy Kemper for him, which could have been a good goaltender for you. Andrew Mangiapane, I think, is a fantastic winger. I do like that trade for them if they are going for win now mode, but I just don't think that he fits with the team right now. Then you have Ivan Miroshnichenko, who is not... He isn't developing to the level that you want him to. You have Hendrix Lapierre, who is not developing to the level you wanted him to be. You have other prospects like Dylan McIlrath, or sorry, he's not a prospect. You have other prospects like Vincent Irio, who is 21 years old, who's not developing like you want him to. Yeah, I think that this Washington Capitals team is digging themselves a hole that it's going to take a long time to get out of, especially when you have a guy under contract making $8.5 million for the next 7 years who's a 40-point scorer. The Capitals look like they're in some hard times going forward, so we'll see how that plays out during the season. I don't think that they're going to be particularly good, which is good because I'm a Blue Jackets fan and they're in the Metro. It's all good if they're bad. But 39-year-old Ovi might not have what it takes to carry this team anymore. Next, the Montreal Canadiens moved up in the draft. They moved up to 21st overall for the 25th overall pick, a 2nd and a 7th round pick in this year's draft. That's just a pick swap right there that they get a good prospect for, and the LA Kings still have yet to pick. Or, sorry, I misspoke. It's the 26th overall pick. And the LA Kings have yet to pick, so we'll see who they get with that. I'm also seeing this is a sidetrack. I'm seeing the Anaheim Ducks logo for the first time, their new one, like actually in action, and I'm seeing the LA Kings old/new logo for the first time in action, and I love them. I actually love them. I think those redesigns were fantastic, but that's a story for a different day. Going forward with the NHL trades today, there was a trade with the Columbus Blue Jackets. They traded forward Alexander Texier for a 4th-round pick. Alexander Texier put up 72 points in his 201 career games with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Helped them a lot in 2019 in that sweep against the Tampa Bay Lightning, but has not been the same guy since. He got injured in 2021. Took the entire he got injured in 2022. Took the entire season 22 to 23 off, and then this season he was back, but he underperformed after spending an entire year in the Switzerland Hockey League. It didn't seem like he was up to par with the NHL standard, and it looked like his career has stagnated. I do have an Alexander Texier jersey in my closet, so this one hurt a little bit for me personally, but hey, that's what happens in sports. Your favorite players get traded all the time. And then today, during the draft, the Minnesota Wild trade up one spot with the Philadelphia Flyers for their 13th overall pick and a 3rd-round pick to get the 12th overall pick. So in my 5th segment tonight, we'll be talking all about the first round, seeing what moves were made here, who the teams got with the moves that they made, and whether or not they were good moves. So that'll wrap it up for my 2nd segment, pre-draft trades roundup. When I come back from my 2nd break of the night, we will be talking about the Canucks re-signing some key pieces.